Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Lesson Podcast. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne. When this timer hits 9 minutes and 55 seconds in this recording, you'll have a fully developed life lesson that you can take with you and begin immediately implementing. The podcast falls under the umbrella of my greater personal development efforts, all under the Your Better You brand. For information on accountability coaching or to gain access to tools, tricks, or life hacks, visit yourbetteryou.info. Thank you for joining me on the journey today. Now, here is this week's life lesson. So it's a little weird on a podcast, which I have literally quit at least 3 times, probably more times than I can even remember, and just sort of nudge to put it back in, to discuss the virtues of knowing when to quit something. But this came up from some organic stuff that happened throughout the week for me this week. And as I literally just got off from recording an episode of another podcast where it's based on talking to creators and asking them, how do they know when it's time to quit? Or actually asking them to know how to ask themselves how to know when it's time to quit an endeavor. Very quickly, I'm going to wrap up what happened in the week. Earlier in the week, a post went out by Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, working out in this gym. And it basically stated how his having to quit football, because football basically quit on him, led him to the newer heights that he's at right now when he gave up on that one dream that he knew he was going to be good at that didn't work out for him. That actually left me a bit upset because I've been working at various different things, more or less along the same lines, the same dream of being big in broadcasting, using my voice as a way to reach people. And it's not working out anywhere near to what I wanted to be. And my attempts to back away from it turn into other things that seem to be even worse for my psyche and my spirit. Then this morning, as I'm working my show prep for the radio show I produce on Saturdays, I'm listening to some other videos from other creators just to get some ideas on how things are going. And one creator is doing a video about knowing when to quit. They tell a quick story about how when they're in high school, he told a story about quitting doing sports for his senior year, even though that was the year he was looking forward to, because then he'd have all this leadership stuff and his coaches were really waiting for him, expecting him to do stuff. And then he ended up quitting essentially the first week of school as things were about to get started. But on the flip side, he quit high school sports and can still say he was a high school athlete, except for his senior season. But in that senior year, he had a lot of work to do to become an Eagle Scout. He was falling behind and knew he had to do all this stuff to get it done before his 18th birthday. And he got it in 3 days before his 18th birthday. That was something else that no one can take away from him. He became an Eagle Scout, something that's very hard to do, especially nowadays as Boy Scouts aren't looked in the same light as they were. But he can always have the thing that he is an Eagle Scout because he got it done. But in order to do that, he had to give it something else that he sort of liked to make sure he can do something that he really wanted and loved to do. That is the whole point of this message for today. Knowing when to quit. And it all comes down to, what are you doing right now? What is keeping you doing what you're doing right now? And if there's something out there that is better for you to do, or you don't even know what's out there, is it worth pursuing those things and giving up what you have right now as a sure thing? Because here's what quitting or not quitting really comes down to. We fear the unknown. And so if we are so used to a routine, so used to a thing, so used to people and stuff that you don't know what the difference would be if those things were gone, you get freaked out. So you go to the same general restaurants, and you hang out with the same general people, and you do the same general things because they're things you know, things you're comfortable with, things that fit inside of your life and your schedule. But maybe there's something bigger out there. Maybe there's a larger sort of happening that you could be working on that's out there. Maybe you know something that could be a larger thing, and you just have to give up what you're doing now to go to it. Or maybe you have no idea what it is or what it could be, but you just know something's out there and you probably should go looking for it. These are two different ideas to focus on for leaving, or quitting, but that's what you have to focus on those levels. What are you doing right now that's so comfortable, maybe a bit boring, that if you stop doing it, you'd have time for something else? You have time to put into that thing that looks exciting, or have free time for exciting things to be attracted to you. If you have standing appointments every single hour, every single day, things where you should be, and someone offers you a chance to do something spontaneous on the side, but you have these standing things going on, you can never do anything spontaneous on the side. That's not a right or wrong or good or bad thing. It's the reality. If you always have to be someplace at 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoons, and a friend says, hey, let's go do something at 6 o'clock on this Saturday afternoon, and you're not done with your 5 o'clock standing appointment, you have to make arrangements to fix the 5 o'clock, blow off the 5 o'clock, and maybe upset whatever process that is, or not do the new thing at 6 o'clock. It's a pretty simple thing. Now, the fact that it's not a standing thing, as opposed to, someone may miraculously sort of out of the blue ask you to do something at 6 o'clock, and that means your 5 o'clocks have to be open, so you keep them open forever, hoping something to happen. That's not really worth quitting for. If you're doing too much stuff and need free time and space, quit that thing and leave that time open for free, for relaxation, for doing random things, and keep it uncommitted. But you can't just quit to hope something shows up. You have to quit to either focus on that thing that's showing up or just kind of chill out and live your life just unscheduled with those things. Now, sometimes you'll come across something that you must quit. One example, if you're in a long-term relationship, married or just long-term, basically committed, and you are a mature adult, chances are that person wasn't your third grade crush. And there's a good chance it probably wasn't even your high school or college sweetheart. You had to kiss a lot of frogs to get to that prince or princess. You dated a couple folks before you got to whoever you want to spend the rest of your life with, or until whatever dealings happen in divorce. Because now you don't necessarily have to spend the rest of your life with someone with a marriage bond. You can end that pretty quickly and pretty cheaply, as you will. Relationships, jobs, things that you are doing that are no longer good for you, whether because you've outgrown them, whether they've gone really, really toxic, whether they're just other opportunities to take on that are greater or lesser, and you just want to do them, you don't have to stick with them. But you can't work 40 hours a week at one job and expect to work 40 hours a week at another job at the same time and get away with that. Sure, you can take on side gigs that are similar and that take on extra time, but you only have so much time in a day. Sure, you can just sort of, upchuck and just do one of those crazy creative dances as you quit and jump on the other bandwagon and hope nobody retaliates. But that's not the right way to quit, but it is a quitting. And this, of course, my disclaimer, not me saying that it's up to you to join the Great Migration and not go back to work because pandemic money is going to run out, but you can find that dream gig, what's going on. Trust me, I'm not making full-time living on podcasting, so I have a full-time job where the podcasting works inside of a real schedule with real things, including a family, a wife, a child, and acquaintances, people's friends that I must spend time with to make sure those things are continuing. Those relationships are continuing. So, quitting. Back to the original point of this week's lesson. Do you have something in your life that is a little stale, that isn't working quite the way it is? It's taking way too much time and overstressing you, and you want to know whether you need to stop doing it. I don't personally know you probably from this recording, so I can't necessarily gauge what it is and whether it's toxic or not for you. You have to do that. You have to determine whether the thing you're doing is something you don't want to do, don't need to do, or should not be doing anymore. Sometimes we have to quit things that we love to find something we can love even more. You have to determine whether it's worth quitting, whether that thing that you desire to do, you're actually going to try to work on it and work towards that, or whether your heart's desire is telling you just stop for a minute, be still, and wait. Quitting is a very serious thing, but remember, we have quitting wrong in our Western society. We don't do it right. Sometimes you have to quit something in one case in order to do something new that can be so much better. thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. Not only are we probably not quitting this for quite some time, I'm putting in the effort and putting in the work to actually jazz it up a little bit. We're not going to change the name. We're not going to start over from one again. But I think we're going to go back to something similar to how we did it in the past, which did get some complaints because the open was not quite 30 seconds in lesson. It was more or less 30 seconds plus a lot of teaser stuff for about a minute of open. I thought it sounded pretty good, pretty well tuned. I listened to some very older ones and was impressed by the work I was producing way back when. But we'll see how that goes. But it did chop off the lesson at 10 minutes and then did all this extra stuff that I'm doing here. So that will not change. We may gussy up the front end in the next week or so. We'll basically, it comes down to, like I said before, it's not even a 40-hour work week. It's basically I work 50 to 60 hours a week with my job right now. And so the radio stuff and this recording stuff is squeezed into a very tight window to get things done. We'll see when we get a chance to work on some stuff and how it goes. Any suggestions, just send them to me at jclevelandpayne@gmail.com, and we'll take them all. We'll see what we can do with that. Now, if your suggestion is that 10 minutes is way too long to get a podcast, then how about 90 seconds? Yes, it's a podcast because it's on an RSS feed, so it meets the technical definitions of a podcast. It just isn't a long, hour-long rambling in conversation with people that you don't know. It's a very quick, very interesting, very easy to take in lesson called Steps Your Better You. Look for it wherever your pods are catching. Yes, we're working on improving the website, so we're back to that sort of normal as well. But if the 10-minute life lesson is a little too long to get into and the salesy stuff is not what you want, 90 seconds, you get a full lesson ready to go in Steps to Your Better You. Look for that where your pods are also caught. And, of course, if you enjoyed stuff you're getting from here or from Steps to Your Better You or any of the other things I produce, I name drop them pretty often, actually. Try going to buymeacoffee.com/jclevelandpayne. It's a way to help contribute to the things going on. As I said, this is not a full-time gig, so it's not big-time resources making this thing happen. So any resource that you deem we are worthy of gaining to help keep things going, I appreciate it. I appreciate the comments, appreciate the emails, appreciate everything we get back from you. So don't think I take anything for granted. I could talk into a room by myself. I could talk into a microphone, just recording things going on and leave it on a thumb drive. But I put out there on the internet for you guys to take in and what you guys give me back as feedback and tell me what's good and what's not good. It's what really makes this thing happen. So thank you for that. Subscribe to this podcast or any other of the works that you like and send me emails as you wish to talk about things. jclevelandpayne@gmail.com. If you're looking for someone to do accountability coaching or just to chat up some issues you got, email me as well, and we can talk about that as well. We're going to rebuild the coaching stuff on accountability and try to get some sort of group. Although I don't have the time to run the group, try to get some sort of group coaching thing, group togetherness thing that we can coach each other. In the meantime, we're going to sit back and record a couple more audios for the day so we can batch them ahead of time. And then we will know, in fact, just how great the episode will be because I've already recorded it. But when you hear it next week, it'll be another week of another great episode brought to you by yourbetteryou.info of the 10-Minute Life Lesson Podcast.